Hi, this is day 14 of February is Fundraising. My name is DJ Chuang, and today is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day. We love because God first loved us. And part of what my heart is drawn to is serving the next generation of our multi-ethnic community here in America, particularly Asian Americans and all those who are in the minority, which will become the majority in my lifetime if I live to 2042 or 2050. Somewhere in that window, America will have no majority racial grouping. And that's going to change not only the landscape of where many of us live, it will change institutions over time as well. And one of the last institutions is the church that needs to be diversified. And yesterday, as I mentioned, I was at a roundtable with multi-ethnic church pastors in Long Beach, and less than 10% of the American church, particularly Protestant and evangelical churches, are multi-ethnic. And that's just at a 20% diversity ratio. So the opportunity for churches that will actually look like the community they are in is time. It's overtime. We need new kinds of churches to reach all people. And I wanted to share with you a story from Philip Young, who is part of Ambassador Network and part of this network that I am doing this month-long raise the awareness for the need, the opportunity, and the solution of how Ambassador Network will be a part of launching multiplying multi-ethnic and missional churches that will reach the next generation. I want to be a part of the strategy consulting, invite you to participate with us, as well as just learning how the gifts that you have through your wealth, through your prayer, through your time, talents, and treasure can make a huge kingdom impact. Here's Phil's story. Phil Young is a church planter with Ambassador Network. Tell us about your vision for God's kingdom and church planting.
Sure, I'm from Vancouver, and it's a very multi-ethnic city, but in my experience there, it's also a city of enclaves. And so we believe that as the gospel is expressed and lived out in Vancouver, this means that the churches will look more like a mosaic, where different people come together. I don't believe multi-ethnic means being colorblind, but that the gospel comes and it forces us to confront our prejudices. It forces us to engage in this work of racial reconciliation, and that's what I'm excited about for the city of Vancouver.
And you're actually here in Brea, California, as a part of Ambassador Church, Ambassador Network. So how does that fit into that game plan?
Sure. My background is that I grew up in the Chinese church, a church that my folks planted when they came over from Hong Kong. And so the church is my mother, and in particular the Chinese church is my mother. And I owe a lot to the Chinese church. I experienced God's grace and encountered Jesus in the Chinese church. But because of that, I also find that the Chinese church, while it cares really well for Chinese people, the second generation hasn't been empowered and hasn't been set forth to do this special work of integrating other cultures and other communities. And so my journey has led me to Brea, California, because I heard about this church planter, Dr. Ray Chang, and all the work that he's doing here. And so I came down here to learn from him, and also just to expand my personal boundaries as well. I've been a child of the Chinese church, pastored in the Chinese church, and I see things from that lens, and I just knew I needed to come down and see things differently so that experience could enrich what I do in Vancouver later on.
Now, as you're church planting, you're associated with a denomination. What is it the denomination is helping you with, and what is Ambassador Network additionally helping you with?
Sure. The denomination, I'm part of the Evangelical Free Church of Canada, and so they're helping me with the infrastructure in terms of fundraising. It helps so much as a church planter in Canada when I can actually tell them that I'm part of a denomination. I'm not starting a cult or anything like that. And so in terms of gathering support, whether it's financial or prayer or networking, just to be able to say that I'm a district missionary with the Evangelical Free Church of Canada, that opens so many doors. And so that's really helpful. The training aspect, the aspect of training as a church planter, that Ambassador Network provides, that's invaluable. So that's something that the district wasn't able to provide me with. They were able to assess me as a church planter. They were able to send me to boot camp, so it's a 1-week training. But beyond that, they really would have said, hey, just best of luck, we're praying for you. To be able to do a residency, being embedded in as in a church, and then being able to work with all sorts of church planters, that's really been my training experience, and that's been invaluable.
Well, we're so glad you're part of Ambassador Network. And tell us your timeline. What's happening next?
Sure. So we're 4.5 months into a 9-month residency. So half of it's over. My focus and my sights are set on Vancouver. We go back to Vancouver in about 4 months. So that's June 2013. We're planning when we get down there to start gathering the core for the church plant. And our plan is to launch preview services in January, and then to actually officially launch the church and its worship services April 2014. So that'd be Easter Sunday.
Fantastic. Phil, great to have you as part of the Ambassador Network.
Thank you, DJ.